Hi, I'm Anthony from Sydney Backyard Veggies. Out of my patch this Sunday, so I've got a few chores to do as part of my weekend gardening. I'm over at my Pak Choi patch that I planted out about 4 weeks ago. This was planted because I had a lot of space in my yard that wasn't ready to be planted out for spring. So I went and put quick row crops like Pak Choi in this spot, and 4 weeks later they're ready to go. So really happy to start harvesting these and start clearing these beds to make more space for spring plantings. Got here in the order of 100 seedlings that I planted out, and I generally like to harvest them at this size. So I'm going to come through, harvest a lot and wash them and take them inside and see how much I end up with. But it's always a nice thing to have those quick succession plantings of fast growing crops, just to take up some of that space in your patch while you're waiting for your main crops to start. So I'm going to come over here now and start harvesting them. So before I go through and start harvesting, I just want to bring you up close to show you the patch. These are great. This is a variety called Pak Choi, which is a white stemmed Pak Choi variety. I've been planting it all throughout the year, and it really responds well to warmth, sunlight and a lot of fertilizer. So I've been giving it daily or weekly liquid feed of nitrogen fertilizer. Just want to come and grab one. This is the size I generally like to harvest them. Don't like to keep them any bigger than this. This is my in-laws prefer them at this size. They use them in their Asian cooking, getting them steamed or used in stir fries, but this is perfect. It's been quite clean. There's been little pest pressure. I have had a few damaged leaves, but generally speaking they look quite good. What I'll do is I'll harvest them here, clear off the root ball, take off the lower leaves, and then give these a light wash, let them dry, and then they'll go in the fridge. So I'm going to come through and start working through this bed. So when I come to harvesting Pak Choi, essentially I pull the whole plant out by its root. I don't like to keep pick and come back. I like to harvest it all. Just cut off the root board, that will go back in the patch. Take out the lower leaves that I want to feed to the chickens, and there you have it. That's my choy that I'll keep. Put it straight into a container of water to take the heat off those plants. The sun's been hitting these seedlings for the last hour or so, and it's starting to wilt. So by putting it straight on water, you're freshening them up and makes it better for storage in the fridge. Excuse the chickens in the background. Hard to film when you've got animals with you. But I'm going to continue on and harvest the rest of the patch and see how I end up with. So I just finished harvesting the patch, and now I've got all my harvest in water in my bucket. I'm just going to go through now, give it a light wash, and then take them inside. So I'll show you what my final harvest is once I've given these a light wash. So I just finished washing the harvest, and that's all I end up with, which is great. These will just let them drip dry now for the afternoon, and they'll get bagged up in a paper towel and then into a plastic bag, and they'll be eaten during the week. They will last an easy 2 weeks that way. As long as they're dry when they go into the fridge, they'll be fine. I'll be actually sharing half of this with my in-laws. But yeah, it's a good quick harvest if you've got a bit of space in your yard while you're waiting between that winter and spring transition. Get some fast growing crops in that spot, whether it's Pak Choi, radish or anything like that. It's a great way to use up space while you're waiting and increasing your overall harvest for the year. So I'm over at my fruit trees, and all my trees, my citrus, my fig and my persimmon, are just about at various stages of flowering. My mandarin tree, which is the imperial mandarin here behind me, is just starting to put its first blooms out, but it's still got the old crop which I'm working through at the moment. But today I'm actually going to go and add a bit of my yearly fertilizer to these trees. I like to give them, ideally like to have given them their first round of fertilizer in mid to late August, but time seems to have escaped me. So I'm going to go through today and show you what I'm adding to my trees and how I provide that additional fertilizer and amendments just to help them in their growth to produce next year's crop. So here at my mandarin tree, what I do is I like to make sure that everything around the base of the plant is kept weed free. So before I add my fertilizer, I come through, pull out all the grasses that I can around the base and just generally keep it clear. The amendments that I add to my fruit trees, first of all I like to add low nitrogen fertilizers to the bed. I like to have more potassium and phosphorus added, rather than going very high levels of nitrogen. So I try to stay away from blood and bone or anything like that. What I do use is I use a lot of sulfate of potash that I've got there. I add it like this for the potassium to help the plant's fruit. But I also like to add, if you can see that, phosphorus, to add additional for the roots and for the fruit as well. But I also like to add shell grit. This is what I use to feed my chickens. Shell grit, I find, will add the calcium that it needs to the tree. It breaks down slowly, but unlike dolomite lime, which will sweeten the soil, fruit trees like citrus I find like a slightly more acidic soil. So by not putting lime, but rather something like shell grit that breaks down slowly, the trees can get their calcium without changes to the pH level. And then at the end of it, I will mulch with half a bag of cow manure, and I'll just put that around the base, keeping it away from the stump of the tree because that will cause collar rot. So I'm going to come through and just add my amendments now. So what I'm doing is, just first of all, just removing all that old spent grass and any other dirt, and then spreading. Then I liberally spread all the potash and the shell grit around the base of the tree, just around the root zone. And with my bag of cow manure, just kind of I aim for about half a bag of manure. I just spread it around the base as a sort of a mulch, making sure that I'm actually moving it around from the collar. You don't want it sitting on the collar of the tree. And that there is done. The nitrogen in the cow manure will be enough for the tree, and yeah, that'll be done for a year. I'll go through later and give it a water, but yeah, that's it. So I'm going to go do the fig tree, and then we'll be done for the day. So this afternoon I'm going to plant out my first planting of ginger for the season. My family uses a lot of ginger throughout the year, so one of my gardening goals this season is to grow a year's supply of ginger in my backyard. So what I've done about 6 weeks ago, I'll bring you close in to see that. Six weeks ago I've cut the nodes off the bits of garlic I'd brought from the store, and I've sat them in water for about the last 6 weeks, and what you can see is that the nodes have started sprouting. They've gone green and started sprouting shoots, so now is a good time for me to put them out in pots. What I've done is I've filled these pots up with a mix of potting mix, some cow manure and a little bit of seed raising mix just to bulk out the soil. And so I filled these pots to about 3/4, to the 3/4 level mark. These pots are about 30 centimeters in diameter, and I will be planting 2 nodes in each of the pots, and we'll see how they grow out from there. Before I plant these out, I just wanted to show you the ginger nodes. As you can see there, I'll bring it closer. You can see that it's just started to sprout, and that's exactly what I'm looking for. Look, none of the cuttings have generated roots yet, but I'm expecting once I put them in the soil, they will start to root up. So these are going to be planted. I'm looking at planting 2 cuttings per pot, and all in all I'll probably end up planting 4 to 5 pots worth of ginger. So I'm going to come over now and just plant them in the pots now. In planting the ginger, what I'm looking at doing is just covering the soil up to the node. So I'll just make a little hole, and as I'm covering it, I'll just make sure that the node stays proud of the soil level. I don't want to cover it up. I feel this probably be the best way to go. And then the second one, I'll just do it to the other side of the pot, and again just fill it up to the underside of the node, and then plant it. Now, I've done this before. I did this last year, and the biggest issue that I had was that when I planted them in the ground, I'd overwatered them and they rotted. So the idea here is just to make sure I water little but regularly every day, just to make sure that the soil stays moist enough for them to germinate some roots, and to make sure they don't rot. So now that I've got this, I'll go and get my watering can, just give it a little bit of water, and then that would be good to go along with the others to germinate. So I've just planted out all my ginger nodes in these pots, and I've got 5 pots worth. Each pot's got 2 to 3 nodes planted in it, and now I've just given them a light water, and I keep watering them lightly every day just to make sure they've got enough moisture in the pot. I'm going to keep them here in this location here. It just gets morning sun here, which I find is better for ginger. In the past I planted mine in full sun, and I only found that as it got hotter, the plants essentially burnt from the heat. Hoping that having them here and having them in pots, I can move them around to suit the weather that day. But generally speaking, this spot, it's morning sun, full morning sun, but in the afternoon it's shaded by the tree. I'm hoping that they will start growing over the next month, and I should be harvesting them in April, May. Probably harvest them as young ginger then. I'm pretty excited for this. The first time I've done it, but I'm hoping that it works out for me, and I'm hoping that you enjoy the journey with me while I'm trying to grow my first round of ginger. Thank you very much for joining me today in my video, and I hope to see you in the next one.